National Signing Day rolls on, and we dip down into South Florida for the very latest on the U. Marcus Benjamin joining us now from CanesCounty.com. Marcus, things are obviously rolling on the recruiting trail for Mario Cristobal and company, a top 5 class after debuting in the top 10 in 2023. Things trending up for the Hurricanes, multiple 5-stars, 3, in fact, in the final Rivals 250. How do you quantify this class of 2024 for Miami?
Well, you got to say that this is one of Mario Cristobal's best recruiting jobs, considering that they came off of another mediocre season, you could say, in 7-6. The strength is definitely in the defensive line to pull in 3 5-star guys to add to that defensive line when you already had an outstanding year from freshman Ruben Bain in the previous class. I think it really speaks to the to really build from the inside out, from the trenches out. I mean, in that first class, they really built the offensive line, and now there's a real focus here on the defensive line. So I think the class is really going to be the class when you look back on it, is really the class that really takes this program to where it used to be back in the early 2000s and the 90s.
Yeah, let's focus on that D-line group. Obviously, Jason Taylor, Hall of Famer at the NFL level, easy name recognition for these recruits, but it can't be that simple, right? They have to flip Justin Scott from Ohio State. They had to win out for Armando Blunt, lose him to FSU, reflip him from Florida State there at the end of the cycle. You go up and get Marquise Lightfoot from the Chicago area as well. What was it about the D-line Hall and Jason Taylor in particular that helped it all come together?
Well, when you talk to the kids, they want to be taught by a Hall of Famer. I mean, who wouldn't, right? I mean, guys like Marquise Lightfoot and Justin Scott and of course Armando Blunt as well. When you get the opportunity to be taught by a Hall of Famer, a guy that's been in the trenches and done it at the highest level, you take that opportunity 100%, 10 opportunities. And I think these kids realize that, and you kind of couple that with the fact that Miami has basically 2 D lineman coaches in Joe Salavea and Jason Taylor. So you really have 2 guys really kind of working with you to kind of refine your craft. And, the fact that you have an offensive line, like I mentioned, that you work against. And it really is an iron sharpens iron type of deal. And I think these kids really saw that opportunity. And I think that is a big reason why they committed to the U.
Yeah, we talked about the elites in the trenches, particularly on the D line. I want to shift over to offense now with you, Marcus. 2 things. One, there's always an emphasis on keeping South Floridians home. That was like Mario's first line when he got the job. He's been able to accomplish that for the most part over his first few cycles. But 2, there was a big need at wide receiver in particular, and they were able to keep a lot of South Floridians at that position home. Tell us more about JoJo Trader, Chance Robinson, and that group.
Yeah, Miami always has wide receivers. I mean, the South Florida period. It's always chock full of talent at that position. At pretty much every skill position, you're going to find a lot of talent here in South Florida. But it was important for Miami to really kind of lock down 2 of the best talents at the position to commit to Miami and to stay in Coral Gables. JoJo Trader is an outstanding talent. He's just got sticky hands, a really good route runner. He's just an outstanding athlete. Of course, Rivals had him as an athlete because he's just a versatile player who can play both sides of the ball. Of course, he's going to be playing wide receiver at the University of Miami, but it just really kind of shows you just what kind of athlete he truly is. So to get him to commit to the class before the season started really kind of solidified, I think, that wide receiver position. And then also to get a Chance Robinson as well from a powerhouse school in St. Thomas Aquinas. In the past, they've gotten guys from St. Thomas Aquinas as at the wide receiver position when you think about Philip Dorsett and other guys. So to kind of reestablish that pipeline with in the Mario Cristobal era was really, really important. I think that it's going to continue as far as in future classes. When you see, the Cortez Mills, and of course the Wade and Charles, who's now committed to the class, to continue that pipeline at wide receiver is really important. Of course, they didn't get the biggest fish of them all in
I
Jeremiah
wasn't going to
Smith.
bring it up.
But I mean, they really pushed until the very end, as we all know, it was well publicized. But I think any top receiver that's down here in South Florida is going to give the Hurricanes a look, especially with the success that they've shown on the field with Jacoby George and Xavier Strepo, hometown guys that both, put up really big numbers last season. So the sky's the limit for the wide receiver position coming from South Florida to Miami.
You mentioned the near flip of Jeremiah Smith. Well, Miami did accomplish several big flips late in the cycle. Just scanning the commitment list right now, Jordan Lyle was an Ohio State commitment who flipped in addition to Justin Scott. Adarius Hayes flipped from the in-state rival Florida Gators very late in the cycle. How big were some of those late gets? And do you see any of those panning out as impact freshmen for the U this fall?
Absolutely. When you talk about it, Justin Scott, I definitely think he is going to be an impact player. He's at an impact position at defensive tackle. I mean, you can't those guys don't grow on trees. You got to go out and find them. And Miami, the one thing about Miami is that they're not going to quit. They're not going to quit when it comes to recruiting. So if a big time player that they like is committed to any school, you best believe that Miami's going to continue to push for that player until that kid signs on the dotted line. And that's been their philosophy, and it paid off with a Justin Scott, and it also paid off with a Darius Hayes as well. Both of those guys I expect to be impact players immediately. From what I hear from Coral Gables already, those guys are already, showing, what they can do. Darius Hayes, he's just a monster of a linebacker as far as size wise. So he's definitely a guy that Miami can mold into a big time player. So yeah, well, when it comes to flipping players, I think, hide your players because Miami is going to come to try and flip any and everybody that they feel should be in their class.
Well, they certainly did a good job of it in the class of 2024. Again, Miami, number 5 overall in the team rankings under Mario Cristobal. Marcus Benjamin and the crew at CanesCounty.com will have you covered on all things Miami here going forward. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, John.